off the only successful skyjacking in U.S. history.
He was just another passenger who gave his name as D.A. Cooper.
The guy either had to be crazy or brilliant and have mad skills.
I think he was just a sleazy, rotten criminal.
He seems rather nice, and other than he wanted certain things to be done.
Most crimes are messy. They are loud, chaotic, and defined by human error. But on November 24th, 1971, the world witnessed an anomaly. A man, known only by a pseudonym, executed a crime so precise, so calm, and so audacious that it feels less like a felony and more like a magic trick. He boarded a Boeing 727 in Portland, Oregon. He ordered a bourbon. He politely ransomed the United States government for $200,000. And then he erased himself. This is the story of the man who shouldn't exist. The event began in the mundane atmosphere of Portland International Airport. It was Thanksgiving Eve. The air was thick with holiday rush and the looming threat of a winter storm. The man who approached the Northwest Orient counter was unremarkable. He wore a dark suit, a trench coat, and carried a black attaché case. He purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle under the name Dan Cooper. He was assigned seat 18E. Once airborne, the cabin was quiet. Cooper ordered a bourbon and soda. He lit a Raleigh cigarette. He watched the clouds drift by. At approximately 3 p.m., he handed a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. She, assuming it was a flirtatious advance, dropped it unopened into her purse. Cooper leaned toward her. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't look manic. He simply whispered, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." When she opened the folded paper, she saw neat, hand-printed capital letters. The demands were specific. $200,000 in negotiable American currency, 4 parachutes, a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the aircraft upon arrival. To prove his sincerity, he allowed Schaffner a glimpse inside his briefcase. She observed rows of red cylinders, a battery, and a nest of wires. But what stands out in the FBI files is not the bomb, but the behavior. Cooper was described as a gentleman. He was polite. He paid his drink tab and insisted the crew keep the change. He requested meals for the pilots. He checked his watch, not with anxiety, but with calculation. For the next 2 hours, Flight 305 circled Puget Sound, while authorities on the ground scrambled to assemble the ransom. At 5:24 p.m., the plane landed in Seattle. The exchange was executed flawlessly. Cooper released all 36 passengers and 2 flight attendants. In return, he received a canvas bag weighing 22 pounds, filled with 10,000 $20 bills. He was now alone with the flight crew. The hostages were gone. The money was on board. The plane was refueled. The stage was set for the second act. At 7:40 p.m., the 727 took off into the pitch-black night, heading south toward Mexico City. Cooper's instructions for this leg of the flight were technically highly advanced. He ordered the pilots to fly at 10,000 feet, an altitude where the air is breathable without pressurization. He demanded the landing gear remain deployed and the wing flaps set to 15 degrees. He was configuring the aircraft to fly as slowly as possible without stalling. Once they leveled off, Cooper ordered the crew into the cockpit and told them to lock the door. He was now the sole occupant of the cabin. At 8 p.m., a warning light flashed on the instrument panel. The aft air stair, a set of stairs in the tail of the plane, had been unlatched. 13 minutes later, at 8:13 p.m., the pilots felt a sudden oscillation, a pressure bump. The nose of the plane dipped upward, then corrected. The weight was gone. Cooper had lowered the stairs and stepped out into a wind chill of minus 50 degrees over the rugged wilderness of the Lewis River Basin. When the plane landed in Reno hours later, the FBI swarmed the cabin. They found the money bag gone, the parachutes gone. On seat 18E, they found a black clip-on tie and 8 cigarette butts. That was it. The subsequent search, codenamed NORJAK, was the most extensive in American history. Soldiers walked shoulder to shoulder through dense forests. The SR-71 Blackbird spy plane photographed the flight path. Submarines scoured the depths of Lake Merwin. They found nothing. No body. No parachute. No money. It was as if the earth had simply swallowed him whole. For 9 years, the silence was absolute. Then, in 1980, a young boy digging a fire pit on a beach called Tena Bar unearthed 3 rotting bundles of cash. The serial numbers matched, but this discovery only fractured the timeline. Geologists determined the money was buried in a sand layer created by dredging in 1974. This implies the money arrived years after the hijacking. Yet algae found on the bills suggested they had been in the water since 1971.
When we looked at the Cooper money under an electron microscope, which gives us very high magnification, we identified dozens of these diatoms.
It is a paradox. And then, there's the tie. In recent years, electron microscopy revealed that the clip-on tie Cooper left behind was covered in particles of pure titanium and rare earth alloys. In 1971, these materials were not available to the public. They were used exclusively in high-tech aerospace prototyping. This evidence suggests that Cooper wasn't a desperate criminal, but a disgruntled insider. An engineer or manager who knew the industry, knew the plane, and perhaps felt the industry owed him a pension. In 2016, the FBI officially closed the case, but the public hasn't stopped looking.
Here's the DB Cooper! Cheers! Yeah!
Every year, new theories emerge, new names are whispered. We want to believe he survived.
Can you imagine how ballsy it is to jump out of a 727 in a rainstorm at night wearing loafers?
We want to believe that a man in a trench coat can defeat the system, the elements, and the odds, and simply walk away. Because if he died in those woods, DB Cooper is just a tragedy. But if he lived, he is a legend. The last free man in American skies. From Shark Network. See you next video.